What's going on, guys? Conviction 454 here, and this video I wanted to talk about the CompTIA A plus exam, really more so the first part of it, or the CompTIA A plus 1001 exam that I actually just took today. Good news, I pretty much passed the exam today. There were 75 questions. I know if you go on the CompTIA website and look at the layout of the test and the objectives and stuff, it'll tell you right at the very top that the exam usually has 90 questions, so that kind of surprised me a little bit. I took it at a local community college, like 10 minutes from my house. Took it at about 9 a.m. Eastern time. But yeah, honestly, it was a fairly easy exam. I studied for it for about a month and a half. And some of the materials I used, I watched Professor Messer's Udemy course, paid like $12 for it when it was on sale. I watched a lot of Professor Messer's videos, particularly on printers. But really, since the biggest section of the exam is hardware, I watched a lot of his, not just printers, but hardware in general videos. And I also used Cert Blaster, which is kind of like a performance simulation multiple choice based portal where you can answer. Really, they have, I think for the 1001 exam, they have like 500 something questions, and they actually divide it into certain sections which match the objectives that CompTIA lists on their website. So there's hardware, there's cloud computing, I think there's a little bit of network configuration. I don't remember the objectives on the top of my head, but yeah, I passed today with a score of 719, and I believe you have to get a 675. Normally that would be at least 65 questions out of 90 if you got the 90 question test. I'm not really sure why I didn't get the 90 question test, and I confirmed that I took the right exam. It said CompTIA A plus 1001 exam. So I didn't take the wrong test, if that's what you're thinking. But yeah, honestly, I didn't have much trouble with the exam. I'll say the first 4 questions that you get, though, are going to be performance-based questions. So it's going to be stuff like you're going to be asked to do something in the command prompt, or you're going to have to configure a SOHO router or an enterprise network. I know those were the types of questions I got. One of the performance-based questions I got also included matching, like, twisted pair with an RJ45 connector, or a telephone port with a RJ11 cable, stuff like that. Pretty simple. Like I say, if you go over Professor Messer's content or Mike Myers' content, you shouldn't really have any issues with the CompTIA 1001. I'm probably going to schedule to take the 1002 either late next month, or late next month, or early October. So hopefully by then I'll end up CompTIA A plus certified. Honestly, I have to tell you that like, after the 4 performance-based questions, the multiple choice questions all the way through to like question 50, I say, keep in mind I had 75 questions, 75 questions. I was just breezing through the questions. Like, a lot of these questions are just like, they're pretty similar in a way to the practice questions you would get on Cert Blaster, or I think there's one called Cert Master too. There's a lot of different practice tests out there. Some are free. I actually paid, I want to say $100, maybe $50 for Cert Blaster, which has quite a few questions and performance-based questions. But none of the performance-based questions on Cert Blaster were on the exam, so that was kind of a bummer. But I did manage to see, there was actually one exact question on my exam that was on a practice exam that I saw somebody else upload, and there was one question in particular that was the exact same question. I was like, wow. And I memorized the answers. Like, that's crazy. It might have been like a dump or something that they decided to upload, which I don't think is allowed on YouTube or at all. But yeah. And for those of you who don't really keep up with my channel and everything, I actually currently work as a help desk technician at Venture Employer Services. So it's not like I really needed the certification to get a job. I already have a job. It's just I felt like if I'm in a help desk role and I'm still entry level and I'm still learning the different technologies and everything, why not pursue this cert? Especially because I had already been studying for it prior to getting the job. As a matter of fact, one thing I would like to mention in this video right now is that you don't need certifications to get an IT job, and you don't need experience to get, this is for entry level anyway. If you can show that you have competent interviewing skills, people skills, soft skills, if you can express that in an interview while also being able to answer these technical questions even without experience or without any like credentials or certifications or anything, you can still get a job in IT. I've actually done it twice at this point. No certifications, but I have about 5 years of customer service experience, primarily in retail, of course. I also worked at I worked as an Intel sales representative at Best Buy, which is actually a contract position through a third-party vendor. I worked at Kroger for 2 years, worked at Phantom Fireworks, and some other. I've worked in quite a few places, and I'm only 23. It's actually kind of crazy how many jobs I've had up to this point, and I'm only 23 years old. So, also, the position I had before this was kind of like a remote technical support service desk position. I would pretty much sit here all day, well maybe not all day, but for 13 hours, third shift, just answering phone calls. It was basically a virtual call center where I would reset passwords all day, all night, and just try my best to troubleshoot any type of technical issues. I hated that job so much. Micromanagement, felt stagnant. I wasn't learning any different technologies or anything. Honestly, I don't even like to put it on my resume, but I kind of had to so that I could have something to talk about during my initial interview. But yeah, I hated that job so much. But yeah, I'm sorry I got a little, sidetracked there. But yeah, again, like the 1001, if you really take the time to study for it, I highly recommend Mike Myers and Professor Messer. Those are really the only, I feel like those are really the only two resources other than maybe a practice exam or something, which you can get for free on examcompass.com, by the way. Do some practice quizzes. Professor Messer, Mike Myers, you really don't even need both. I would say Professor Messer would probably just be fine, or Mike Myers on Udemy and some practice quizzes, practice tests, you'll be fine. 75 questions when there's usually 90, I think, and just remember the 4 performance-based questions at the beginning. In terms of the topics that I saw personally on my exam, definitely quite a few questions on hardware. Virtualization, there are quite a few questions on that. A few networking questions, not really a lot. Soho router configuration, though there were definitely quite a few questions on network configuration. Actually, one of my performance-based questions was actually working with like the 802.11 standards and determining why a tablet couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi, which was pretty simple. The answer was that it wasn't within the 2.4 frequency range, and so the 5.0 frequency range, and the wireless settings weren't configured to use both 2.4 and 5, and so I had to change the 802.11 standard to B/G, since both of those support 2.4. Actually, no, B doesn't support 2.4. I think that supports the 5 gigahertz. but G supports both. So if in the event that she needed to like bring the laptop with her, she would essentially always be connected to the internet in some shape or form. So but yeah, virtualization, definitely study up on virtualization, hardware, and networking. Those are the big three. Few security questions here and there, but not very many. If you do that, I have no doubt that you'll pass the exam. But anyways, what I'm actually going to do is in the description, I'm probably going to post the resources that I personally used to pass the exam. I highly recommend that you use them. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the end of this video as usual. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.